All right, we're going to talk really quickly about Edgar Allan Poe. He's our next author. Should be super short. I don't have notes or anything for you. You're not going to be responsible for this information, but I legitimately think that like understanding a little bit more about the author will help you understand this short story you're going to read, which, in my opinion, is the hardest short story we're going to do. I think it's a pretty challenging one, just like language-wise and whatever. So here's what you need to know about Edgar Allan Poe. He was a really famous poet, writer, critic, etc. You maybe have heard of him. He wrote The Telltale Heart, which I feel like some of you maybe have like listened to in middle school. I've been told that people have done that before. I don't know, at some point. Basically, he's well known for being a really good writer, but he's best known for being a writer of like creepy, dark stories. Um, Stories about like murder or death or revenge or like anger, or just stories that are just meant to like scare the reader. Um, there's one called The Raven, which you may have heard of. It's a pretty famous one where like this raven comes in and all it says is like nevermore, and like it's this character like asking himself like when am I gonna be happy or when am I gonna see my love, and the raven is just like nevermore, nevermore, nevermore. So if you ever hear that reference, there was an episode of The Simpsons where they did it, and I only know that because I was researching like videos about the raven one time. Whatever, it doesn't matter. I hope that you don't know it from The Simpsons, but maybe you do. Anyway, so he writes a lot of like pretty dark things, but in the middle of his like dark writings, he is kind of a genius, and he always will say something that's true about human nature. Very rarely will there be like a huge theme that is like, oh my goodness, this story taught me about the power that sacrifice can have in our lives or whatever. You know what I mean? Like very rarely is there like an overarching theme in this story. Rather, you will learn something about people. Learn that like, oh, what it means to be human is people are good or bad, or this is more specific than that, but or selfish or full of hate, or people are, respond this way when they're insecure. It's like from Of Mice and Men how we learned that like through Curly's wife, like a lot of times when people are lonely, they turn into like the worst version of themselves. And so we need to learn how to look past that, whatever. It's like a lot like that. And so look for that in this book. I keep almost saying play. It's not a book. It's a short story, whatever. In this writing, because there he does have something to say about people. And again, like it might seem like a negative thing, but I also think it's something that we can learn from. Here are a couple things I want you to know about his life, both because it's interesting and also because I think it will help you like get into his head a little bit. His life was hard. His mom died of tuberculosis when he was 3. His dad, no, yeah, 3. His dad left when he was really, really young, and so he ended up living. So like his last name was Poe, Edgar Allan Poe, but then he went and lived with the Allens, and was raised by them. I honestly don't know why he went and lived with them or like what relation they were. They were like a wealthy family. He liked the mom a lot. He did not get along with the dad, right? So like everything in his life was hard. Poe was like a great poet by the time he was younger, or like 13. The dad did not want him to be a poet. He wanted him to make money. Spoiler alert, Edgar Allan Poe never had made money in his life. He's not appreciated till after he died, so his whole life was like a struggle. His whole life was him trying to prove himself. His whole life was like losing people and like trying to reflect on life and having financial troubles the whole time. So like his life was hard. Also, I feel like people find this is interesting. When he was 24 and she was 13, he married his first cousin. Um, so there's some, I mean, it was like 1836 when this was happening, but also like he married his cousin. But they were in love, and that was really beautiful for a second, but then she died. So despite that big age gap, she died when she was very, very young. And so it was another loss, right? Like his parents, his people he was fighting with. And so like I think that you see this theme in a lot of his writing is that like people leave, right? Either because they choose to leave like his dad did, or they're angry with you like his like stepdad did, or because they die like his mom and his cousin slash wife. So those are some of the things that I want you to know. Like he had a really hard life. I don't know. I think the cousin thing is just interesting, and people normally get a kick out of that. He wasn't famous until he left. Like, so his whole life was just like this struggle, and so he has like a pretty negative view of humanity, right? He has a lot of people that I think he was angry at, both his dad. I think he was angry at times in his life for like his mom and his wife were dying. They know that he was angry at his stepdad for like the ways that his stepdad didn't encourage his dream, and so like you will see that in his writing, right? There is a lot of anger there. Somehow, though, in that anger, he also managed to be, I think, really, really wise. And so this is not necessarily a story that's going to like fill you with hope of like, oh my goodness, like how good people are, but rather I think it's a story that might tell you like this is the worst side of us, and but it's not the only side of us, right? I think that we as people who read the story have like a hope and a truth and a knowledge and like a view of humanity that's different than Poe's, right? Like I think that we know more, and I think that we know differently than he did, and so I think we'll be able to read this with the lens of like, okay, this might be true about me, but it's not the only thing that's true about me or the only thing that's true about humanity, and here's what I think I can do around that. I imagine that I'll have to make another video just talking about the story because I do think it's tricky. So look for that. Let me know if I haven't made it quickly enough. I'll make it later this week. Maybe tomorrow. It doesn't matter to you when I make it. But like, let me know for real. Like, reach out if you have questions or comments or concerns. This is one we would talk about and like read slowly. So I gave you a lot of time this week to work on it. So hopefully that is enough. Let me know what you need from me, and I hope that this information was a little bit helpful. And also, miss you. Oh, I didn't turn it off.